So what that means? I guess he was trying to break it to me easier, or he himself was still having a hard time, and so he said, you know what? Ask call Dion. So same day he said that Dion. No, I said Dion now calling me, and said, well, when he's been trying to reach you, and then I get in you and so on. And he said, what happened to Banks? He said, Banks dead. And I just went in silence. And I said, what happened? And, after I kind of caught myself, I said, what happened? What's going on? And how come? And he tried to explain to me, and normally when a person passes, I don't try to call them the immediate relatives immediately. So I had to. I said, hey, let me call Wendy and see what's going on. And I called Wendy, and of course she was, shook up and in tears and started to cry. And then I myself tried to say, try to hold her, keep it together with her, because I started to cry as well. I cried for 3 days, man. Wow. But I gotta say, it's just surreal. It was just a state of shock, and I gotta say, again, my condolences to Wendy and the children and Colin and Sandra. And listen, as much as I was, his best friend, I have to say condolences to his friends, all of his friends, because and the outpouring, the outpouring of love and support. Alfredo Whitaker from Cayman Islands, Cooper from St. Lucia, and so on. I gotta pay respect to them, Michael Brand and everybody who was called and given support. I tell you something, it has been the toughest of times, but the outpouring of love, even though when you get the call, it injects that emotion into you that makes you want to cry again. And so I had to put up with that, because my phone just never stopped ringing, because people appreciated the level of closeness that we all enjoyed.
Definitely.
And so, that is how it unfolded for me, and for 2 days after that I just couldn't sleep.
It's always difficult when you know the person was full of life,
Yeah, that's exactly. And
it's always difficult. even though that is very old. It's not something that we get accustomed to, but Banks was always so full of he was alive at the party for everything. I experienced a lot of pleasant moments with him. But even though it's a sad occasion, right, we want to talk about the good times. And I suppose this will help to ease some of the pain that we all are feeling.
Yeah, definitely.
But he was a cultural man too.
It was everything.
But you knew him from early. What was he like growing up?
I would say that we both knew him from early. And if you look at the situation, we're at the former T.O.R. Memorial School. This is the school that I attended, and when I came upstairs, it was because I was going to be disciplined. That is the reason why I would come upstairs, Mervyn. So upstairs to go to the principal, what I mean? And Banks was attending school just at the back here. There's a stone's throw away of Miss Davis School, right?
That's correct.
And so these guys, we never went to school, the same school, but we were inseparable.
I went to, after you finished Miss Davis, so I went to Christ King, and then the two of us met at St. Joseph's Garden.
So we all started for us from school and in the playground.
Yeah.
Because back then the community leagues were very strong in Villa and Point and Gordon had a lot of guys from his school who would come down to play the former team and played in the league. And so we were all always in the park. We Gordon tried every sport. volleyball, football, basketball, cricket. You understand? I mean,
That's greatest opening batsman.
Exactly. And giving the ball, you turn a spin out too. You understand? And Gordon always had that level of self-confidence. Always had that level of self-confidence. I would say that Gordon was a unique person. You understand? Because when you're unique, you are in a category by yourself.
That's true.
And that is how I would describe him, because he was just always the life of the party. He was always an optimist for everything. He was always a visionary. You understand?
Oh, yes.
And he always...
That's in bold letters.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. And in as much as people threw shade at him, criticism at him, whatever, that just bounced off Gordon flesh like nothing. Never bothered him.
I remember when, a perfect example of that is when he was playing, he got picked for Villa. And, I was up in the stands in double-decker watching him, and they brought him on the field. And everybody in the grounds, that's when football is football.
Yeah.
And everybody cussing where they go with the fat man. And they were only cussing. And he scored a free kick.
Yes. That was a fantastic shot. Yes.
When the shot come off, the belly exposed, boy, he run. He nearly killed them with best in the world. Look, nobody had...
No. That was a wicked shot. That was a masterful.
I always remember that.
I'm telling you.
When he finished abusing the stand, he believed he was Pele.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, we were raised to be competitive, you understand? Always to striving to be of our best, right? And to strive for greatness. And so that is what, and we were never limited to a sport. Even marble, no matter what it was, we just always tried. And we lived at the beach during the summer. We communed together, and that's why we always rode together. Everybody rode together. Bang's friends became my friends, or most of them. And to be honest, a couple of Bang's enemies became my enemies. Not because I wanted them to become my enemy, but because they had bad intentions.
Right.
You understand? So once I see that they have bad intentions, then I'm going to be with my boy, because for us it was ride or die.
That's correct.
And that's exactly what we were, party and everything that we did. Yeah, you understand? Everything that we did. So, we started with the football, cricket, we played all the sports together. People don't know that 29 years ago, we started a volleyball team. A volleyball team, female volleyball team.
Okay.
Yeah, that's important.
I can understand that.
But I'm happy to say that that volleyball team has stood the test of time, because for the first time ever in our history, we won the female national championships this year. And Gordon was as keen as he was here in Antigua. I would tell him exactly what we're doing, how we're doing it, And when it came to the finals, and I tell him I'm going to print some shirts, he's saying to me, you sure you can't do that?
You're going to print a shirt before the game?
Yeah, of course. I tell him I'm buying 2 coolers, champagne, and we have the partnership champagne shirts, and I have one for you, and God, watch the games, because fortunately they're streaming live, the Volleyball Association stream live, and he watched the games, he would call and talk to me, and he tell me, this is Gordon. He tells me, reach out to all the family members, reach out to Monique, reach out to Tamara, reach out to Maria, and because the victory and what we were accomplishing was not just about us, it was about our foundation.
Right.
And so God is a person who never forget where he came from. A lot of people would want to label him and say, oh, I did high class, this and that, they'll go on like that. But when you get to know the real God, nicely.
Definitely. No, I had many good moments with him, I tell you.
Well, Neil was talking about the cricket, and I always remember that, a lot of people don't know, when we were in high school is when Winston Benjamin and
Yeah.
Kenneth Benjamin and
Wow.
Anthony Merrick.
Oh my God.
When the real fast bowlers were bowling, you know.
The heat.
And Gordon, you know, and Academy. Well, you know, I played hardball, so I wasn't in that. But, you know, Academy would go, and they would say that, boy, the white people and them come. And when we go out in the country and so they come to kill Academy people. And Gordon would go out opening bats, and he out there telling them how they're good. And telling them bowl back. He just chatting all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, you know these guys.
Trash talk.
Yes.
Real trash talker.
He had just the other day too. I was this, and that's the kind of guy he was. He don't back down from nobody.
Nobody.
I remember there was a game up at football game again, Villa, up at Yasco, and this guy in Lamiki name.
Lamech. I don't remember Lamech.
He was from
South.
No.
Lamech.
From South or something.
So
I think that's the guy, tall red fellow.
Yeah.
Big guy. So, and Gordon
Rough.
all day. Yes, sir. And Gordon all day. He catch the man, he beat the man. I just one of my all-time favorite memories of him. Catch the man, he beat the man. They tell him,
Come back, he come
"You're
again."
good. Better than you. And he pull his shots, dig him. All kind of things. Then one time the referee not looking. Banks on the ground. The man just thump it up. I never forgot that either. I said, you know, that's the kind of guy Gordon. When he the thing I have to say about Gordon is that if Gordon lied on his bed and he get an idea, and he decide this is what he's doing, that's it. So it have nothing to do with whether or not you think he's good at it, or whether you think he can succeed at it, but he going down the road. You know, you know about that, and that applied to not just his business life, but that applied to his personal life, lineman, you know, everything about Gordon. It was just make up your mind, let's go.
But I noticed you guys were talking about how he's scoring goals, you know. But the name Gordon Banks, Derek. I know as a goalkeeper.
Yes.
I know as a goalkeeper.
Correct.
So tell me a little about how you ended up with that name.
I see one of the three Stooges just arrived. The name just came in. I saw you join us shortly. He would have been the best for this one. But Banks first fancied himself as a goalkeeper. And Gordon Banks, one of the greatest there was. Of course, again, he's going to resemble his game and set his name after one of the best. So that's with Gordon Banks.
Yeah.
So it's Gordon Banks Derek.
Yeah.
So
You're not doing the size, the Banks.
no. But he wanted to be a goalkeeper, and that's where he started. But you know, incident which caused his hand to break.
Yeah.
Also caused him to change to become a striker because I think he was standing in the back of the goal or something like that down in the park again. Again, it could have been Iki Naira, but with one of those low levelers that he in the back of the goal and the ball still got me right? And so I think that that one probably ended that part of his career. His parents probably when he went home, Cora probably went crazy at him. He decided to not that anymore. You know, so he moved from that. So that's how he got the name Gordon Banks Derek, basically. But there's so much fun memories. I remember Jeffrey just sent me a little note there. He said, you remember Gordon saying one time when he was facing the said Kenneth Benjamin that boy, the ball so fast that it can make the bat spin in the hand. And he's still chatting shit. Still trying to intimidate with his mouth. God was
Bobby, you're lucky spinning my hand.
So
there was a time he told me that one, I think it was Merrick, one of them boys bowling, and he made a forward defensive move, and he see the ball tall. And after the ball passed him, he hit the ball in the keeper and he walked down the pitch. He's tapping the pitch. So, you're not good. The pitcher help you. You know, he's that kind of guy. You know. I mean, could never keep him down, man.
No, I could never keep him down. I mean, our high school days, I think, were the best that and any youths is what we really enjoyed together. I mean, the fets, the everything, and there was a time when back in those days, just for fun. Although it was wrong that people were stealing cakes whenever they went to the parties. And so when you had some kind of an unfortunate dimming or down of the lights, boy, cake gone. All them crazy craziness, and so we were involved in, but from prep school, primary school to high school, everything that we did together. The summers we just always rolled together and took on ventures together. And I just remember, when he graduated again from State College, I think actually, did he leave early from?
No. Yes,
he left early. He did 1 year State College and then went to FIT. But I felt like, oh my God, brother, God left me. It was. We had so much fun, and we had this tendency in the summer to borrow his parents' car. So, I wanted to use the word power. This 120Y. Remember when the 120Ys came in? Yeah, man, boy, I tell you, man, we just pushed that out. Yeah, slow motion. We pushed that out nicely out of the garage.
Turtle.
The Turtle. That's what it was named. The Turtle. And boy, I tell you, those are the fun we had. We borrowed it, but we had some problems after borrowing it, and we were going to get an accident too. We became body mechanics as well. Yeah, we became body mechanics as well. Bent out. We had to go out the pilot and so on. But
I know a little earlier, you before Dion came on, you were saying something about we've been joined by another thing, So I just wanted to know if you know that we... What? No. So three studios. Three amigos.
That's what I use. The three amigos.
We want to welcome you, Dion. Welcome you to the program. We're just talking about the good times, the life and times of Gordon, our dear friend, But what I noticed in all the conversation here was that even though you all went to different schools, I mean, the community was what brought you all together. You all spent a lot of time together
Different schools
after school.
As Coach MR.
Yeah.
We were great rivals with the St. Joseph's Academy. And so there was not a time when we were meeting either Banks or any of the other guys, especially some of the guys from Villa, same Ikinaya, Wanzai. We had Randy Asker, and then later on people like Tuti and so on in the goal, and the Peter Finches and Jubics and so on. Yeah, we had some good times, had some real good times, And so, as Neil said, the issue that he had with the fractured hand is what killed the Gordon Banks career, goalkeeping career. And so he started to try things out.
I know. When he was the general secretary in my tenure as the president of the Antigua and Barbuda Football Association, I know Banks had one time, or I think it was around dinner, where he told me that he wanted us to make a move to take over CFU. Sure. And the plan after CFU was CONCACAF before FIFA, right? And it did work out. To be quite honest to tell you, I thought it was very difficult because at that particular time it was Jack Warner who was the top brass for CFU, so I was wondering how we were going to knock him down, But then it came to pass that he actually did become the president of CFU. So you always had that kind of drive? You always had that kind of drive?
He always did. And as Neil was saying earlier, anything he put his mind to, even if you thought he wasn't good for it, that was Banks. Banks would just go at it. Just yesterday, we normally, myself and the crew normally do beach volleyball down at Miller's, on Fort James. And after I went and took a soak in the water and just looked back at the shore, I started thinking, because we would be there like after work on any afternoon. And Banks used to say, boy, it's over plenty of people, plenty of tourists pay thousands of dollars.
Yeah, always.
And it's right here, we have it. You know what I mean? And we used to just laugh at the fact that anybody who lives in the States would be still trying to get home. They're commuting home, and we don't go home, change, and go on the beach and relax.
Yeah.
But the drive in terms of Banks and whatever he wanted to accomplish, as Neil said some time ago, well researched, he always researched anything. Damon said it earlier, if he lied on his bed and think of something, he run with it. You know, and so there are a lot
It's
of
true.
things.
You called me very early in the morning about something he thought about the night before.
Yeah.
And what do you think about him, Mr. President?
Yeah, very unselfish.
But his vision for the sport of football was
Second to none.
yes. You know, he had a lot going on up in in his head. But at the end of the day, the challenges and the fight down that you get. You know, but talking about the fun memories, I remember he said that one time you guys were somewhere in Zurich and there was people like Lionel Richie on stage and stole the show. I guess you could probably speak.
No. Let me tell you, we were a class act in any fever gala, you know.
What was it? Hello.
He said you became Vivi.
Yeah, Vivi. And he would step forward to security. Hello, they're with me.
We I mean, at that particular time, I think it was the DSC promotions that wanted to get Lionel Richie to come to Antigua, and that was the opportunity to talk to him.
Yes.
But how were we going to get to him? You know, when you know Blatter and all these other top-notch for FIFA would be there, you know. So he said, Mr. President, let's go. Follow me. After about 2 or 3 bottles of Merlot, because
red wine.
He loved the red wine.
Yeah.
So, you know, and he had this kind of business walk, you know, that I was struggling to keep up with him, you know. So we went there was this guard with an AK-47 and stopped him. You know, stopped him, and he told the man and looked back at me. No, he's with me. Come. And the man looked like a question kind of on his forehead. Wait. Okay, he must be one of those big guys. Yeah. I said, go ahead. And then Banks went up, he said, so easy. And we went up and the flat and all these other guys said, what these 2 guys doing up here? You know what I mean? And Banks had this weird pant up, you know?
Yeah.
Business like, you know?
Yeah.
And he would get through with things like that, you know?
Business time.
And I also remember one time when we were going through a little struggle with the association, because of course we fought 4 years with Jack Warner with this whole Chet situation, all the former executive members. And I remember Jack invited us to his room in Germany, and for us to have a drink, you know. And while we were there having a drink, he says, Mr. President, and he looked at Jack Warner, and he had the face. Mr. President, I know you Chet good, but you're not going to get a red cent. Not a cent, but a red cent. And I am this. No, that was the man. That, I mean, whatever he had in his mind.
And with a slur,
Yeah.
That is true.
Exactly.
But you know, the thing about God is, you know, many a time I've gone to God at some strange time in the day or the night, and he'd say, "Hello, where you dealing with? Come and check me. I have an idea." And you know, all too often, he would just take off, and by the time you go and visit him, he already has, that's the answer. He done do the market research, because he done thinking about this for a while, you know. So a lot of people don't even know. You know, we had, there were years ago when everybody Antigua was the internet gaming, sports betting was the scene. So sports betting was the scene. It had just come on the scene worldwide, and everybody was into sports betting. And Gordon had one of his moments, and he lied down and studied that, you know, the risk in sports betting, because there are people betting. So it's a lot of risk, you can lose a lot of money. And he thought, well, what about casinos? That have to be less risk and more money, because he figured that must be a safer deal. Gordon found a guy who happened to have a company at the time called Boss Media on Long Street, down in where immigration is now, on the top floor. And it was a young guy from Switzerland. He wrote a program that essentially was one of the roadblock, one of the building blocks for the current the gambling industry as it is now. And this guy was our age and a multi-millionaire. And Gordon said, Tucker, oh, we'll look for this man. So he made contact and he said, well, the man said, well, you know, a lot of young people not really into this, so come. So he sent Alan and Sandra went his sister. Then Alan, neighborhood buddy, long time buddy.
Yes, Alan.
They went up, Alan the IT guy and Sandra the finance lady. So they gone up there, meet the guy. The guy said, yeah, he's willing to work with us. And Gordon called me and he says, hello man, listen to me. We need to go and see the Prime Minister. I said, see the Prime Minister? He said, for what? He says, we have to get in the free trade zone because we're going to do this. And true to form, we went to Leicesterborough, to Leicesterborough, and he was so enthralled that Antigua young people, because at that time was all foreigners doing it, Antigua young people wanted to be doing this kind of thing here.
That's right.
And he said, well, whatever you all have, go ahead. He will back us. And all we had to do was find the money. Of course, you know, that's when we first discovered. That getting your hands on cash in Antigua is not an easy task. As a matter of fact, the reason why it didn't go anywhere really was because every time we went to a prominent businessman, I mean, there are many of them. I remember them all, not nicely. And they all said, if we give, I know you like a boy for Clavis and boy for Cora. Where I want all this money for? And if they put their money, they must be in charge. Well, they don't know nothing about the business. No. Anyway, they went until we had to give in because we couldn't get the money.
Right.
And years later, I remember us sitting down having a drink. And he said, partner, look what we're going. All them people come from all over the place. And they will make money and we there first.
Yeah.
You know, that's the kind of guy he was. I mean, people at the time when we were thinking about that, when because he's the one that come to me with the idea, there was nobody, I mean, that wasn't even a thought. And then they had the explosion of internet gaming, casino gambling. That guy eventually sold his company for some retarded amount of money. You know what I mean? And moved on to where it was.
Right.
And I said, we had the guy here. Gordon spotted the opportunity and he moved. He was a guy like that. You know, I don't even know if you know that when the World Cup came, when the World Cup came, he called me again. You know, you would know that we had the party stand together. And and he said we were moving over to Seville. And they decided that the powers that be decided that you can't we won't be, they will be doing a new stadium with a party stand based on our ideas, but it has to go to Chicky. So we were like, but Chicky don't do what we do, because our business model was completely different from what we did, what he did. So anyway, after 2 or 3 times, the boss said, to hell with that. World Cup was coming, and he called me up a day. He said, hello man, what do you think about floating hotel? I said, what do you think about that? He finds some company that just putting out brand new cruise ship, never say nobody ever go in it. He done contact the people, he done write a whole business plan. I still have a lot of them in my house. A whole business plan to have the ships move from island to island with the games. He did that, and we did a whole thing again, myself, him, Sandra. We did a whole presentation in Sticky Wicket, suit and tie, everybody, what? Y'all clean up good, man. And we did a big presentation in the room, invited a whole bunch of investors. We had no takers. Then a few weeks after, my mother said she was reading. My mother likes to read these newspapers from different islands, and she came across an article in Barbados, and she said, "Check this out." When she showed me the article, I showed it to Banks. Somebody who was in there took up our exact idea.
That's right.
and carried it to them in Barbados. And then they came up with this whole big thing, how they're doing this whole tourism and cricket explosion and cruise ships and all kind of thing. But we were vexed. And then one day, then the thing crashed. You know, the cricket didn't really go. It was supposed to go. The people lost a lot of money. And one time he was over by me and my mother was there and she said, right, so the two all they push up on the face for how long? You see what happened to them?
Yeah.
They wasn't supposed to get it.
That's right.
But that's the kind of guy Gordon was. I mean, Gordon actually found a company that had a cruise ship that was not used and convinced them that we need to be a part of what we are doing. You know, but that's the kind of guy Gordon was. You know?
But as his friends, right? As brothers, so to speak, right? How did you guys cope with all the things that he would come up with? You know, how you guys kept.
That's why you have Rob. That's why you have Rob. A lot of it went down. A lot of those discussions went down. Well, Neil and them wasn't really drinking.
Yeah? I don't know how you kept up with all that.
He's a late bloomer.
It would all involve a late night conversation, some views in somewhere, and then another conversation, and then and a way to find a way forward. You know.
A lot of times, when he comes up with the idea, he would have done some thinking of it before. Before he comes to. By the time he comes to you with it, you know, you probably need some more digging, but we're in a position to convince you.
Just say,
We all shared strong views we all shared strong views on the different proposals that banks would have brought forward. But you know what, at the end of the day, we were always in support. We always ended up supporting him and taking that second step to, you know, to just explore the possibilities. It was a similar situation with when you had Bank of Antigua. It was Ed Joyner and these guys. We went there because we wanted to explore the possibility of a multiplex in Antigua. Back in the days, it was just the Luke Cinema. And the fact that we traveled so often, I remember that. You know, I remember that. Yeah, the fact that we traveled so often, we said, you know what? I'm okay. A multiplex basically is needed in Antigua. And we brought in a company to come and do the research. They did the research so that they could tell us the best location to put the multiplex and the whole structure of everything. But when we went to our parents, you know, about it, you know, and they would say, "Yeah, crazy." You know, it was supposed to be on the corner there by D's gas station, by Isaac gas station, and Dred, remember Dred Ambrose family, they own the land. Right, that was one area. And God came up with this whole thing that, you know, in that time was the and he came up with a whole plan with this modern seating, everything, concessions, a whole thing. Because concessions is where you make the money. So that is where he had done it all, and he had everything. He had seating arrangement. He came and he saw me, and he said, "Partner, check this out." And we had the designs, plans, the blueprint, the designs were done. You know, and again, we presented it to the bank. That was it was a RBTT. We presented to RBTT. But you know, RBTT anyway. But we went to the party
because you know,
early 20s. When very early 20s.
It was the same thing. It was the same thing as everything that we have done, either collectively or in smaller groups, where Gordon was involved. It was always something pioneering, meaning. For example, when I remember, you know, mass, you know, he loved a mass.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk a little about.
And I remember him
cultural party
sitting down in the hub, which used to be former Brotherby. And that time, myself and Alan used to play in Legs to See. great band.
Now legacy.
Legacy. Yes,
Okay.
They have 200 mass players and 10 man, of which me and Alan were 2. It was quite good. And him and Sandra come in the day and they said, "Hello, what do you think about the mass group?" I said, "Mass group, boy, that's plenty work.
Yeah.
You know how much people that make money do mass group?" The two of them sit down and they start telling me about this mass group. I said, "Look, I'm enjoying myself too much in ecstasy." And Alan said, "I agree." So the first year they decided, "Tell you that. Time to take off, down to Trinidad, organize ourselves, Extreme." Extreme comes on the scene the first year, we didn't really go. And Legacy was the first band in Antigua, which was run by
So,
Real. Pierre. Real. And Pierre was the first band to have all-inclusive liquor. Fowl had Uncle Welly had a tow truck, and they put a generator and an ice box in it, and Pierre and them bought liquor for the band. We were the only band. That's when they had the mass strike. So all the other bands were up by the market, and we were down by Multipurpose Center, and nothing going on, all kind of warring going on, and Legacy is getting away. Everybody trying to figure out, but why they look so happy? And that was the first one that had all-inclusive liquor. When Extreme came on the scene, Extreme was the first, and this is the thing that Gordon was always involved in. Extreme was the first fully all-inclusive mass band in Antigua.
yeah.
Gordon Derrick a part of that,
Wow.
right? And then he involved, it was him, it was Sandra's band, and then so Sandra come with the concept, and then he bring the boys and deal with the execution. You know what I mean? So that's how the family would work, you know what I mean?
Right.
And the years Extreme took off,
That's right.
made another mark in Antigua. When we did when Neil became
Chairman of the Carnival.
chairman of Carnival, he called the buddy and he tell him, take over,
Party
we're
owner.
going to change up the carnival.
Yeah.
And we're going to party monarch.
That's right. That's
And
right.
he called the buddy and
Up
said,
to now,
you in charge.
that has been the most successful time
Well,
when you were the chair.
You said it, not me.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's true. I can say it. But what I will say though, is that when Neil said, deal with that for me, he called me right away. And he said, let me do this thing. So we have to get in a committee, but me and we're going to form a committee and we're going to change up the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we changed it up, came with a whole bunch of fresh ideas.
Back on
Andy
Saturday.
Joseph, Dennis Francis,
That's right,
we're
that's
all in
right.
that, all in that
Burger.
committee there.
Yeah.
And we went there, we changed up the whole thing.
Back on Saturday.
Yes, sir. And he was at the helm of the largest crowd ever
That's right. That's right.
to watch a soccer match in this country.
I think we had 13,000
Yeah.
paid on that night.
That
2007 Carnival.
Right.
And to tell you the significance of that, remember, we all had our day jobs.
Yep.
Banks we were still trying to play pan. Because of course, we didn't even talk about that, but
Yeah, so that's
culturally,
another one.
that's our next thing there. Because we grew up in pan. Geminites could do no wrong for me and Banks.
No, that's it.
Geminites is where we grew up and started from 14 go right up. Right, so you had that, but we still go to the pan yard. We still doing mass, still working football, and then dealing with the party monarch. And of course, I'm not gonna have him deal with party monarch when I deal with carnival in its totalitarian. Of course, banks have to be my soundboard. So but they moved. When we took over carnival in 2004, there were 1,900 paying patrons.
Wow.
In 2003 for the party monarch. In the first year of operation, the numbers doubled for the party monarch
Yeah.
to 4,000. And that's 2004. And then 5, 6, 7, 3 years later, 13,000 people were there. It had to do with the music stepped up. You know, the music stepped up,
And I think they
and,
were-
and everything else.
screens and
the
stuff.
entertainment, the screens, everything
Yeah,
stepped
yeah.
up. You know, the hype. Gordon and his team just brought the hype. You know, and
And when you are promoting it on the radio too, you all made it sound like, hey, look, I like it, you know?
We did.
Yeah.
Our only disappointment then was that, well, you know, Antigua musicians, I would say so, without any cheese in my mouth, they had. So we were trying to get them to agree, because we had this concept, you know. Gordon and I were sitting over there, and he said, you know, the thing about it is that you want to create a hype show, and all these people coming to see this thing. Why is it that we, as a country, as a carnival association, we don't have a situation where these people come to this show, it is the fete show, and when they leave, you can buy the CD of the finals.
Right.
yeah,
So we had
we attempted to do that. Yeah,
to get the guys. So once you qualified for the finals, create a CD.
yeah.
So the CD
Sign
will
off.
be ready as soon as you get picked for finals.
Sign off on the
Sign
agreement.
off and put on the CD. We get it so that by the time the show done,
Right.
you can buy one. You could go to Progress when you leave it, and it's right there. So because these are the fete songs.
And if you get,
Can't get
if
the
you get
man
a
out
little
there.
more than nothing, you would have got something, eh?
and one thing with God, you know, after bouncy head 2 times, we're gonna move on, because you know, if you're not going nowhere.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time.
He was definitely like that. I
But
mean,
he well, look, that guy was in so much stuff, right? I was just, as I was chatting
I
earlier,
wonder how many hours in his day.
that we don't have enough, because you know, I was just here sitting down thinking, you know, I'm sitting here, you know, we have the blue tablecloth, and I said, you know, a lot of people don't understand that through him, DSC, that the way how we do politics and present politics in Antigua, he in the middle of that too.
Of course.
Because that whole thing that they did in the league,
2004
where we
elections.
went into in the villages
The
and
communities.
had hi-fi and
Yeah.
small stages, and
And the music before you bring on the
Yes,
politician.
all of that.
DSC is the back of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm just saying
And
is that
Gordon was the hype man. He was the man that carried the mic.
Gordon was it, they put him in charge of getting the people in them ready and moving, and so, you know, and he was the guy.
Yep.
He was the guy, and I'm saying that he was the guy behind the scenes, and again, he doing his UPP stuff. I not involved in that. And then I get the phone call, hello man, listen to me. And he's always stuff.
Yeah, hello man. Hello man.
Listen to me. And then we're going to do so and so and so.
When the conversation ends, he says, carry on.
Carry on. Yeah, indeed. And I mean, every time since his passing, you know, I've been sitting down and I told somebody, you know, the two men that I did the most rubbish with in my lifetime, Gordon Derrick was one.
Oh, that's how you do it. I'm saying
No. But he was close to 2. But what I'm saying is that, but what I always loved with him is, and we would always share, is that he'd come to me and, you know, he'd like to find a drink or two. And he would come and sit down in my yard, sit down under the tree. And we'd talk for hours about where you feel you want to go, what you feel you want to do, you know? And a lot of times, as I say, you know, I mean, Neil and Dion and Gordon were from birth. So they like to say that they did with one another.
Yeah,
before
yeah.
Any woman come
Any
and see.
woman. That's right. Yeah, Wendy. Yeah, Wendy. Yeah, Wendy. That is true. That was
Like I
true.
said, that they did with one another before. I came on the scene later on, after we were finished with university, because, Gordon and I went academy together. And then I went to school in Canada, he was in Florida. And we'd see each other if you know, we box up when we come back home. But then after he came back, I don't know how it started. We were sitting down and we just started to get involved rail. When we did rail, it was Gordon, myself, and Lucinda Lake.
Yeah, little boy.
And we just sat down there, brainstorm. And again, I have had people come from, interview me from different parts of the world, cricket people. Who go, I remember one time there was a reporter from South Africa, big guy. And the man came to the gate and the fellow said, boss, there's a big white man at the gate. And I said, yeah, what happened? He said, well, they say he's a reporter. So I go to the gate and there's this big tall guy, and I said, he said, afternoon. He said, he's a reporter. He showed me his credentials, and he said, you know, he'd like to, he asked for the party stand, and the people sent him there. But he was really looking for Chiggy. So he came there, he came in, he looked around, and I said, well, listen, you're my guest, so anything you want. I said, this is my business partner here.
Right.
And I said, anything you want, food, drinks, you're good. We got you covered. At the end of the day, the guy came up, and the guy said, listen to me, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. He said, if this was anywhere else in the world but here, some people would have dead, they'd have to call police, they'd mount the robbery, they would have had fighting and murder. Anywhere else in the world. I know Gordon and I sitting down there laughing with the man, and he's like, that's the kind of thing. We did a lot of things, inclusive of DSE. Just like you spoke about the football.
Yeah.
We have done a lot of things with that guy that have made a mark, which may have gone unnoticed by plenty of people.
Well,
But after we have done them, the others followed.
everybody is.
And a lot of people didn't know that.
And that
it
is-
all started with him, you know.
Yeah, he was on ACB board.
But he was also, he was an engineer.
Well, that is what he graduated from university.
Because I saw
Yes.
that, right? And I mean, there was one time my generator was giving me some problem. So I said, man, Banks, you're an engineer, man, you need to come and look at me. He said, okay, let me go by and see what's going on with it, you know. And he came by, and apparently I hadn't used it for a while, so the gas and so inside got, so, you know, nothing there. So I told him that I spoke to another guy who said he know about, you know, generators. And the guy said, look, man, you need to shut away, man, that's good. So after the bank got it started and so on, we got it started, you take down the whole thing and clean up the whole thing. And we started up, you know. He said, call the guy, man. And he said, tell me, call up the guy, man, and the guy got asked you what mechanism behind it. Tell you the same generator, he said, for sure.
Well, you see, again,
They came in that boy.
Banks was very rounded, and
That guy, Terry, used to run Mazda.
oh shit,
Banksworth.
yeah,
ran-
Terry.
Started off with
He was doing
he
Mazda.
did one time. He was
can't remember his name.
car dealer.
Yes.
yes.
And he branched off.
His name will come to mind because Banks spent a few years working
Banks was his guy.
at the Maho
Yeah,
as the maintenance
I
guy.
forgot his last name, but
Yeah, he
Yeah, he was a really cool guy.
switched out from that and he went into generators.
Yeah,
And Banks was his right hand man. So he had Banks in Brazil and Zimbabwe.
All over.
the world.
Yeah.
Doing, you know, a lot of people don't know about that about Banks.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what he wanted to bring. Yeah.
when he was a maintenance manager
Yeah.
up at APA, up at Crabs, right?
Crabs, yeah.
Right, so he was involved with tango and all that. You know, so he worked around the likes of Dexter John, these guys. So he gained a lot of experience, apart from just being a mechanical engineer, but he didn't rest there because he pursued his master's at Barbados, MBA in Barbados, so that, you know, when he talk about pursuing the business, the different businesses, he did it with competence and confidence. You understand? So he was that dynamic of a person. He was that dynamic of a person, but
He never settled for second place.
never settled for second place
Never.
and never settled the period. We're always looking for something new, something fresh. DSC Promotions was as a result of going to Trinidad and having the experience of a lifetime at the carnivals there, and then you pick up on ideas and you come back and you know, Derek Simmons and Cochrane, and we came in at a time when the entertainment industry was
Yeah.
at an all-time low.
I remember the very first one, the one in Lions.
Well, that's the first spectacular.
His first
Well,
spectacle.
the first event, Mervyn, was down at the Iron Gate Plantations.
Yeah?
Downtown Outlaws. We opened the whole gate of Sound Clash in Antigua. The first to bring a Sound Clash to Antigua. Right? Stonewall versus Downtown Outlaws from Trinidad. And then we went from Stonewall to Renaissance, which was Sky Juice, Big Belly Sky Juice. And then we went from there to Stone Love versus Stonewall. Can you imagine 3,000 people down in Plantation? I mean, and
I was at that event.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was and I was just about to speak about that. It was a very dynamic cross section of people that came out. The nicest in them from Coolidge and Hodges Bay, and they were there. You understand? And the rough and tough men were there. In fact, Dan gave that story the other day when we spoke on ABS. So much bad man was down there, right? Even the policeman Fred. So the policemen that we had there, they said, look, fellas, a lot of bad men down here, you know. And we evolved from there and to do the first spectacular in Lions. Slide just sitting on the wooden benches at the back. And, you know, our call to order was the chime for BBC. We wanted to show the people that we were serious. And unlike the other promoters at the time, we were on time. So we used that. And that was our mantra, and that worked for us. And then we came in with the early bird specials, because there was nothing like that happening.
That's right.
You understand?
Yeah.
So people didn't even like to buy tickets early. But we created that culture where if a ticket was $200, you could get it for $100 if you bought it by X date, and then we came with a half an hour programs because Banks fancied himself as a DJ.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
DJ
I remember his name. DJ, he was a DJ.
In Florida.
He was a DJ in Florida at FIT. Yeah. DJ Desire.
Them boys have a joke with him.
But let me tell you something, like when we were at FIFA Galas, right? We were surprised. I mean, you know, one of the organizers came to us and said, you know, seeing us as, just look at Bank and see Bank is a kind of action man and so. and I'm with him now, so they're saying, you can represent the whole Caribbean, you know, to go up and do something on the stage, and they get somebody from the African
buys up for that.
And from all the different all the other different associations and stuff like that. And so he said, so Mr. President, what are we going to do? You know, what are we going to do? I say, look. He said, look, hot by Arrow. All I'm doing, hot. So let's go up here. When we go up here, we're taking off our jacket, and we tell them, look, wave the jacket. So I went up to Blatter, and I said to Blatter, you know, because he was running again for the president of FIFA.
Right.
So I said to him, we found you guilty, you know. So you kind of shocked to hear me say we found him guilty because you know these guys
sensitive,
very sensitive about these things. So he said, guilty? I said, yes. We found you guilty of doing too much for football. So we're going to sentence you to another 4 years, another 5 years of president of FIFA.
That's a good one.
Blatter, I want you to tell everybody. You want me to go to the mic before we perform, you know?
Yeah.
And said, tell everybody. So I tell you, I said, we've all found Mr. Seth Blatter guilty of doing too much for football and so forth. And
you sentenced to 4 more years.
Yeah, you sentenced him to 4 more years. And
then that is
so
to the party.
Banks will say, let's go and dig in and see if we can get more money than 1 million now.
Opportunity.
He said, Mr. President, since you have him now in your corner, every time we need more money, and the association needs more money. England no one. What the EPL going to do?
$1 million. Whatever money they get. Agreed.
So we need to divide the people who don't need it, man. You know, who need it.
You know, Mervyn.
And there was one other thing too. When we went to Trinidad too, right? You know, Lake and Kent sort of represented us because they were planning to ban us for some foolishness. So they invited me and Banks down to Trinidad, and so we said, look, Mr. President, let's write them a letter, all right? and we get court short shirt. Not by might. And we can copy all the association. So we did that. Not by might, you know, when they have power and authority.
When they have power and authority, they don't give a damn about nobody.
You know, and then, so, me and Banks, we end up in an elevator with some guys from around Russia, Kazakhstan, and all them kind of places. So they saw the Antigua flag. And say, Antigua, you! Plenty balls. but we laugh in the elevator, boy, because at least they recognize the flag and saying, look, we dare to take on the big one and all these guys, man. But Banks, he had a big heart.
But there was a flip to that one when he said, he reminded me, I tell you what, you had a significant impact and impression on Banks, because Banks, you know, will speak about you a whole lot, especially because in touring with you, to him, you were the life of the party, and to you, he was the life of the party. But Banks said, boy, there was never a dull moment with Emma. Emma made me laugh from the minute we got on the plane. She never go sleep. So nobody thought I was joking that Emma. But he said that there was, whatever was going on, I think with the same Jack Warner.
Are you telling about Bureau from Jamaica?
Yes. I don't know if it's the same thing, but he had to do with the guys and being afraid to take a stand. And you guys, so y'all had gone and had the different contentions and meetings and come out on top. So when the meeting ended, y'all was going to dinner with the guys, with the guys and them. So everybody sitting around the table, and your Banks come back, and the Banks serious as a box, close to the table and tells them, say, hey, fellas,
tell me something.
Y'all are fathers.
Tell me something.
Yeah, children.
When y'all go and your children say, you all answer?
Yeah. So the man wondering.
Y'all are jokes. Y'all are real jokes.
Y'all have no.
And you know, he said,
look, y'all have no balls.
No, Banks was like that. I mean, and he was poor for what he stand for, right? For what he stood for. And he was very careful for what he fought for, you know? I mean,
he was also very patriotic to us.
And patriotic, and it didn't matter how small we were. As a matter of fact, he was the one who tried to get most of the other Leeward Islands Association together. Because when we went to this big FIFA gala, you know, all the different federations would have their thing the day before. The African would have the AFC football federation. They will have their little thing before. CONCACAF will have one just before.
Yes, and we'll see if we'll have them.
So he says, well, we can't have our own Leeward Islands too.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot of people, you know, in our court, you know, like St. Lucia, Grenada, St. Kitts. They stood up for us anytime, you know. They
utmost respect.
And let me tell you, they got punished and so.
Yeah.
They got punished for just standing up for us. And the thing about it is that they were always scared to talk to us. You know, the associations will come when we having a little coffee break and saying, look, I like how you guys standing up, man. But they don't stand up for too long. You know, look at that. They want you to they want you to take bitter bush for their coal.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
well, you know, that's the Antigua way.
Yeah, but Banks was not afraid.
Never afraid.
Tell him exactly how he felt.
Never afraid.
Was not fear.
That's correct. And that's what that's why they feared him.
Yeah.
That is why they realized that he commanded the attention and respect of the entire CFU region. And with the 31 votes that we had, 24-7 that we had, they realized that having achieved that position of president there of CFU, that his next step was conquered.
Yeah, but let's talk about from Antigua, the size of Antigua, and for him to assume that position of president of CFU that was controlled by Jack Wan, you would think that Jack would have passed that on or set up something so one of his cronies could get it.
Well,
he always talked about that too, because he, in the beginning, if Jack could have stayed from Trinidad and throw a spear in his heart, he would have done that.
Oh yeah,
of course.
And he always spoke about the fact that, when they had, we were speaking about that earlier, that when they were going after Jack, and he told me, he came back.
He was the only one.
Yeah, and he came back from the car.
Only one that stood up for Jack.
Right.
And he said, he sat down there, and he said, Todd, okay.
Of course.
But that was in the plan. I know that was in the plan. But go on. That was part of the plan.
Jack is Jack from Trinidad. Jack from Trinidad. He from West Indies. I from the West Indies. He said, Jack black, I black. And he don't understand. That don't make no sense. So he decided on that grounds, as a West Indian and as a black man, he's standing up for Jack. And of course, he said when that happened, Jack called him after and was very appreciative of that. And from that day, he supported him, which is probably the reason why.
Right. Well, that's good. Yeah.
At the end of the day,
they ended up being
good friends.
Yeah, and I noticed one thing he used to say, how long we know Jack? So if I said, boy, over 20 years, he said, and what about you, Evie, who was the first president?
Yeah, if you ever
He said, and then he said, and I know Jack for 15. At 65 years between us, we know Jack, you work it out that way,
He definitely, I think one of the with regards to that, I mean, one of the main things about Gordon is that Gordon always had family first and loyalty. Loyal to a fault. So if you for Gordon and you for him, he for you. And if it's going, then as Paul Keynes Douglas used to say, it's gone. And that was the thing with him. And he couldn't understand how other people they don't get it.
They don't get it.
They don't get it. And he'd sit down, with myself sometimes, and
Especially
I'm sure with
football.
Neil, and I'm sure with Neil on many occasions, and he would sit down there, usually with me, he was always with a drink. And he would grumble about how he don't understand what is wrong with them. They don't see it, and I think that size of that heart and that commitment to doing what he thought was right is the thing that caused his demise. Because it always used to pain me. It still does, because I see them. Our society is a funny one. They stab you in the back, and when you drop a ground, you see them pass you and ask if you're all right. You know what I mean? And all those people, when he was trying to do the thing with Barracuda, when he was trying.
I remember
to
he said, "Mr. President, what kind of name for if we form a team?" And we looked at. I said, "Bob, you have deers, so maybe we can say." And he said, "No, that's not. That not look. That's the song."
Yeah, you're not ringing.
Yeah. So he say something like Barracuda, you bite up. And that's how he came in.
They just never saw to me.
The
amount of licks that he took over that. Whilst others have done
Even from people who purported to be his friends.
correct. Others who had done greater damage previously and probably since. And the thing that bothers me is now that he's dead now, you hear all of them coming, oh, what a wonderful man. But you see, I have a friend of mine, I shall leave his name out, but he's involved in football. And if you, from the time you say Gordon, even before his death, from the time you say Gordon, he start cussing everybody that around, because he say they don't understand how much that guy was doing for football in Antigua. And how they just get on and chat a lot of foolishness and write a lot of foolishness, say a lot of foolishness, but then they're not seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that he always used to say is that you come from 108 square miles, anybody study you? So you need to, how do you get your children?
I get that, yeah.
How do you
punching
get your
way above your weight class.
Exactly. How do you get your children out there? You know what I mean?
How you get Antigua football?
How you
up
get
there?
Antigua football up there? You can't.
How you get to a different level,
So
different
he was
standard?
looking to do it. I mean, you know, and it's
Well, we toured over England trying to look for English players because he thought that
Again, that,
getting to the Gold Cup.
and Emma, that is
Was the
something that
money
the
back
entire region has run with now. All of St. Kitts, St. Lucia, Barbados, all of them have run with that strategy
in
now.
England, in all
England in cricket,
yeah.
in football, they do the same thing.
That's right.
And in the US, everybody run with that strategy.
That's right.
And we were killing each other over that because we implemented
See,
that strategy.
we wanted to get to the Gold
My
Cup. That was the
epic.
plan, to get to the Gold Cup. Use all these experienced players from
So
England,
when you get to the World Cup, we get gold.
right? And then he says, the money, Mr. President, that we may commit, we start to develop the youth and them, you know.
Yeah, grassroots.
Yeah, the grassroots program. So he had a plan. There was a plan. It's just a...
Listen.
It's a pity that a lot of people don't understand.
Listen, I had the experience because of working in terms of the administration for CFU.
Right.
And I had the appreciation for the fact that the Caribbean region was heavily underfunded. So, whereas Antigua, you look at somewhere like Montserrat. Montserrat have one team or two teams, but they get the same amount of money for development as
That's right.
Antigua or any
That's
other
right.
country. And that was where you have the disparity in how FIFA and CONCACAF does things, right? But in those days, there was just no serious funding. They were so heavily underfunded that most of the associations were in debt. And Gordon had to borrow money from his sister, his wife, and people to buy tickets, airline tickets for people to travel, to pay for Antigua. And then he get chastised for that. You understand? Those are the things that hurt me, right?
I understand, yeah.
And Gordon fought so much that today there is much better, I'm not going to say proper, much better funding
That's right.
for the Caribbean region now.
That's right.
And he championed that cause.
And there was one other little thing too, is that Jack always put us up, the whole CFU. He used to put the whole CFU to support Blatter.
Yes.
And then we say, but
Voting block.
the whole block.
Yes.
The voting block, yeah. Oh,
Yes.
Oh, yes, we
I mean, it gives you some strength when you vote block, but
support Blatter, you know. But then they saying the Africans who supported Blatter, they had nice green field even though around it brown in Africa. I said, but what did we get for supporting Blatter? What did the Caribbean get? I mean, apart from Trinidad, who got all the fields and kind of things and stuff like that.
apart from Jack,
Yeah.
with all the fields. And
Exactly. And what
We did not get the spin off.
deliver us. So we could not talk to somebody who was running for the presidency with Blatter. In other words, like if you were running against Blatter and you come and say, what can I do for your football? I say, well, look, you can't run for our football because we vote in Blatter. Because Jack says to vote for Blatter. We didn't think independently. We couldn't think independently when Jack was around.
hardly.
And
And that is why they did not necessarily care for Antigua to stand up
So
and
why did
speak.
he deliver us? He got rewarded
Yes.
for delivering us.
The votes.
We never got a piece of the pie
For supporting.
for the supporting.
You understand? Well, not until now that
That's right.
the things have improved, and with the now president,
now with the FAP.
more funding from the new president and the FAP and all that. But they also went out the bounds because they thought that he didn't support them in this new president that they have. We know how much terms he's gone now. They felt like when they came to Antigua that God would show him support, and he was going to support the other person running for president. And at the end of the day, so they just went negative against him. But anyways, we just have to look at the progress that Antigua football making. We made a comment and say, it's just a small island and the things we achieved and so on.
Of course. And the ranking.
And the ranking that this is where I wanted to go back to. Because Gordon did the analysis. He did the homework. And after years of trying to find the formula to get Antigua past just the qualifying stages, the initial qualifying stages, he realized that, look here, you know what? The only way we could do this right now is to form the Barracudas,
That's right.
right? And to keep our players together, playing consistently at a higher level. People read that as somebody going to make money somewhere, not realizing that it was a lost cause. The financial model was a terrible model, terrible model that didn't make sense financially. But from the quality of football, it made sense because where did we end up? Playing against the USA.
That's right.
You understand? We're now talking about TV rights, big time, prime time TV rights.
That's just playing and scoring.
Yeah, you understand? And so that is what that strategy brought to bear. And people just couldn't understand that, they fought against it. Since then, what have we done? Where have we been?
Sure.
Since that, since the dismantling of Barracuda, where have we been?
Not only that, what has become of, you don't see any leadership coming out of the Caribbean anymore.
Well, no. Don't even listen, let's not stray away.
Completely
You
new.
make me stray because, again, I was there. And I'm telling you now that slavery is just watered down to nothing. To nothing. We have no independence. We don't have no say. We just follow. Before ban, when all of the in CONCACAF, all of the confederations, you have the USA, you have Mexico, and you have the Caribbean. All of their presidents
Central America too.
all of them sit on CONCACAF. Yes, I didn't call them all, but all of them sit on the CONCACAF board as vice president of CONCACAF. CFU was the only region within the CONCACAF whose president never sat.
Wow. Okay.
Until Gordon Derrick was removed. No, until he was removed.
Okay.
Because they didn't want him to be there. So now the current president, Randy Harris, sits as a vice president. And if you understand the remuneration they get, and so on, and benefits, and what benefits your country get as a result of you holding that position. You understand? But the things that God has done, from a sporting perspective, from a cultural perspective, consistently in this country. This occasion, unfortunate occasion, Gordon should be getting an official funeral. At minimal. You have worked tirelessly to take football to a level where you played against the USA and gone to that highest. Your ranking was the highest ever. Where all the issues that happened with the gold project before yours time, and now it turned around and is delivered from sitting in the little coop.
That's right.
At recreation grounds.
We have an office.
And now you look at the facility. Beautiful, wonderful. It didn't just come overnight.
That's right.
It didn't just happen. Even for that, he was chastised for unfairly.
But you know, that's how we are.
You understand?
Which, you know,
Yeah, see them, those who would blog and say all the negative, now blogging is saying the best of
something
things.
too, you know, it's the creativity of the man himself. Like, after we brought some lights, they weren't the best. When he brought lights to recreation ground.
Yeah.
And I said it weren't the best. But he got Wayne Hewlett to put up these lights. Yeah? Our gate receipts improved tremendously. Right? And he says, look, how are we going to do that now? So you get that certain tickets, that if you win certain tickets, you call certain names. And the guy from half line, if they can kick the ball in the goal, they'll win something. And so, you know, these kind of things. So people were coming out and bringing their family out and stuff like that.
People used to watch football.
My research officer Jeffries chime in. You know, Jeffrey again, one of the brothers.
Oh, yes.
One of us.
Yeah.
So he just reminded me that it was Terry Burns.
Terry Burns.
Terry Burns, you understand?
That's
And he
right.
corrected me as well. The bank that we approached is Caribbean Banking Corporation. I don't know if you remember. They turned to become RBTT,
became RBTT.
but it is Caribbean Banking Corporation. You understand?
Thank you, Jeffrey, for that.
You know, we banks.
I will always miss that guy for the level of intellectual conversation that you would have on all levels, because he spoke. I mean, he did everything hard. You know, he played hard, he party hard, he did business hard. I mean, he worked hard. You know what I mean? And I would miss those conversations because we would sit down, listen. You know, one or two times, and he starts to tell you about how he's best in the world. Best in the world. I mean, just not to get away from that whole football thing. But it was another thing that, as you all were talking, it just came a flashback in my mind that there was a picture in Observer with Banks in the middle in a black shirt with a glass in his hand, of course, and a sea of yellow behind him. And that was because we went to Panorama, and that year Gemini's won, and everybody say the thief. Now from the time Gemini's was finished playing, he decided that they win. So we're standing up there, and they called second runner-up, first runner-up, and the winner. I just look around, no Banks. So my wife says, "Are we gone?" Next thing I was see on stage. Best in the world, front of the stage like he was playing. You know, but that's how he.
Passion, he did everything with passion, man, with passion. Everything.
Whatever he did, you know, once he get into it, he just throw everything, the whole kitchen sink, everything at it. So you know, when you speak about football, when it's football, whether it was culturally, you know, it was carnival committee, it was extreme, it was whatever. But once he decide that he in there, you know, and so these stories.
All a minute.
Yeah, these stories. I mean, I'm sure you have guys from all over the Caribbean, all over the world, that will have similar instances with that guy just doing.
Oh yes.
You mean? I mean, just doing wildness and being forthright and getting in.
So, what do you think that? What do you think the legacy that you leave? Tell me. You know, or something that he had thought of. That perhaps somewhere in the future it may probably come to pass, and we can say, well, at least he started this.
Shit, there are plenty of them out there.
We spoke about so many of them. I just spoke about the goal project. The goal project, definitely.
Yeah.
That is, Banks worked hard at getting that up and going to where it is. I mean, they had a lot of stops before his time to the project, and that, you know, that has now become borne fruit. I think Gordon really didn't want to stop until he could see our players become professionals worldwide, and that's something that he wanted and he was aiming at doing. He thought Barracudas would be able to get that done.
He also was dreaming, because I remember when he got in the CFU, and he was there twice, right? Twice they voted him, or what? Twice. So after the first, when he was going around for the second time, and I said, "My brother, so where are we going? We going FIFA now?" I said, "Do I have to book the flight now?" And he said, "No, he not finished what he had to do at CFU level. You're going to wait. You have to make a couple maneuvers." He was busy, you know. He was a politician too. The greatest, one of the world's greatest politician. As a matter of fact, I think Dion was there. I remember if Neil was there. I'm sure Jeffrey was there when the first time Colin lost to Gaston and we were down by Jules. And the man come in there, and the man started holler, "Are they wrong, Derek?"
Oh, yeah, several times.
You know what I mean?
That has been said.
That's been said. What I'm saying is that he was a politician, so he knew how to maneuver. So he had you know, he figured out whose corn he was going to mash if he moved too soon. You know what I mean? And so he was strategizing all the time. And I thought, you know, just like when, see, these things are unheralded, right? So it's just like when my father was Vice President of West Indies Cricket Board as a man from Antigua. Nobody talks about him.
I'm telling you.
That don't mean nothing in Antigua.
And the things that were accomplished and structured on that.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not an Antiguan since.
Exactly.
You understand?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Gordon and my father used to have long conversations. You understand?
Oh, yeah.
And the way
Knowledge,
Gordon
seeking
Derrick
it.
was president of CFU, and there was Antigua.
That's big.
And there wasn't one before,
That's right.
and there ain't one since.
That's right. That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
That is true.
And these, but you see, the thing is about our culture, our country, is that these kinds of things, people don't study them. That don't mean nothing.
But your father summed it up one time on the radio station.
But which one of them? Which one of the
He said,
comments? Oh, you like to be sodomized?
We don't tend, you know, we tend not to
And I see, and
to
I see,
recognize
I can
people
tell
who
you,
made a contribution, boy.
I can tell you from
After
my
death
thing.
and something.
Yeah, but no, but I'm going to say that it's just been a little over a year since my father died, and one of the things that I didn't function well for about 3 days, 2-3 days after Gordon's death. And one of the things I was lying down thinking is that, you know, I see and feel a lot of similar things when my father died and when Gordon died, because numerous people, you know, just like Neil said, phone ringing off the whole, everybody telling me what a wonderful guy he is, what a wonderful guy he was, what a great guy he was. But then again, when you look at it, no, never honored. Never honored. Nobody ever really come since.
Yeah, that whole
or
system
since.
needs to be revamped.
So I don't expect.
That whole process
Well, I'm
of
not even talking about
honoring
national
people.
honors. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that I don't expect. I expect that you're going to have a plethora of things coming out about Gordon, right? But here's the thing: within a year's time, just like my father, within a year's time, You know what I mean?
You think if Gordon was much older, like in his 70s,
Yeah, same thing.
they would have probably recognized that he's done
Same
something.
stupidness. Same.
Yeah, he would have been the
Yeah,
same.
same
Boss,
thing.
we're just too overly political in how we deal with
Exactly.
things in this
Yeah,
country.
yeah,
You understand? And I see you looking at the clock, and we could stay here for another 2 hours.
I know.
But the one
Talk
thing
about him, yeah.
right, the one thing that I would like us to talk a little bit about before we move on, because we speak about fellowship, we speak about this innovation, we speak about the different things about him, pioneering and so on. But family, the
Yeah.
foundation,
Definitely.
I think that's critical for us to talk about, because he was a family man. In as much as, you know, the time clock and how much, you wonder how, I just wonder, coming from the office is so late, and so I say, boy, you know, I go home, and Gordon just found time to devote to the
And
things
enjoy
that
himself.
mattered.
And enjoy
And enjoy, very much enjoy himself.
With his family.
So his family started, you know, of course, his mom and dad starting up, right? And then his brother and sister, Colin and Sandra, Cora and Amal. And then they welcomed all of us into their homes. They welcomed us with open arms. There was nothing that we couldn't go and do in their homes. And same when he came to our homes, right? And then Wendy, his rock, for 17 years of marriage. You understand? Wendy absorbed everything.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
She absorbed everything. You understand? She wasn't fond of him drinking, but she understood this made me happy.
What's the word Jesus used? Fun?
Fun, almost stronger, right? But she respected him because she understood that, hey, that's what made him happy. Being around his friends made him happy. His devotion and dedication to football made him happy. And you know, a lot of his, and being with his children, taking them to the beach, taking them to, up in the States, taking them to football, taking them, you know, always being there for them.
That's true.
When he had work time, when he was in Antigua, he knew there's a time that he needed to move and go and take care of the kids. That's one thing he knew.
But I think they should have, I think the association should at least have a tournament or something in
Well, you know that you may not know that you know, he called me one time. You know, Nazir apparently is doing quite well in football. That's his son. And
It's in the middle of the goal. The last one we
so
scored.
he said that, you know, one of the problems that he had was that because of this confusion and foolishness with FIFA, he was not allowed to go. He couldn't go and say, well, this is who he be. Because that would create a problem for Nazir. Because he wasn't supposed to be around any kind of football.
Yeah,
he wasn't supposed to be in any football grounds. He wasn't supposed to be around any kind of thing like that. So he was very concerned that he couldn't get to go and see his son or be somewhere and identify himself to the coaches and stuff like that for fear of getting some kind of son in some kind of blacklist, something.
He did it quietly, you know,
Yeah,
but he had to be...
he did it right, but I'm saying is that was a burden on him.
Right.
You know what I mean? That was a big burden because we spoke about that.
But,
the current ABFA, I am sure that they and all treading with careful, prior to this.
no, I think they are right now because
Of
you know,
course.
he wasn't, you remember they were still,
they had his so-called ban is up. The so-called ban is already up. So no, it's last year. Last year.
Yeah.
But
Neil, as you said, right? I mean, we could spend the next.
the whole year. I just wanted to bring about thing about family.
But the thing about it, for 53 years old, right?
You should know.
He has done things
A whole lot.
that people probably would have taken too long.
That get the 3 scores and 10 right.
Absolutely.
Let me give you the final thing about God that people don't know. Again, go to the family and how we were raised. Nobody in Antigua. Banks fancied himself as being the best baker in the country.
Oh Lord.
Baker?
Baker.
Peace.
So we'll talk about if you want, and cook.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and chef.
Yeah, chef.
Banks, again, had those
He
talents.
challenged himself at everything.
Banks would bake the cake, a nice, a wicked plain cake, nice, a fruit cake, but that just come from his mom and I mean, we had to spend time around them.
Yeah.
We spend time around there, you understand? So, these are things that people even know.
I remember.
There was that side of him.
Yeah, I remember.
I think it would be said, it's easy to say what he didn't do, isn't it?
Yeah, but
I'm telling you.
You try to search for one thing.
As Neil said with the cooking, you know, one time he came over by us and he had the kids that just come from the beach and of course we doing what we doing. And then my wife said to him, she's going to get something for the children. So she took, he said, what are you going to get now? You going to cook now? She said, don't worry about it, man. I got to sort out. They want pizza, I'll sort them out. So she took, you know, like these little pita bread that they sell. And she made these miniature pizzas. And when she came out and she put them down, he said, wait, you just make all that? She said, tall. You know, she buy the pita bread and then she put on the toppings and so. But Banks took that to heart. And then he used to call me and tell me he's the greatest pizza man in the world. Anytime the children hungry, boy, he whip up something and sort them out. But you know, he was, as Neil said, he was a man of many talents.
Very talent boy.
Yeah, man.
Many talents.
And Tim says he was the best steward at
He's the best,
In the world.
best in the world.
and he put up the face.
Yeah. A lot of facial expressions. And he liked to coin phrases. So, you know, like you said, whenever we call you, there was, you know, that particular greeting. Hello, man. And then whenever we leave, whenever you come to his name, then carry on. You understand? Whenever he was extreme and they were on the road and they were being introduced or whatever, you know who we be, and this is him. And you know, he had so many
The best one.
slangs.
The best one was when he was, that still resonates. Is when he was getting married. We were at the reception, you know, the rehearsal.
I just want to know when they watching you.
I know, and we're sitting on the wall at the back, and we was just chatting. And Wendy had a series of things that she required to be done. So she came up, and she said, we all just chatting. Banks, I need this, and she lists off a set of things. And then she turned and left. And up to this day, I never forget that. And he sits there and he turns to me and says, look at what we come to. And that phrase, that phrase has remained between the men for years.
Look at what we come to. I tell you, he was just a man that's full of life and full of energy.
But look, I'm so happy right, that I mean, you know, it's, as I said, we started off to say how sad it is that he passed, yeah, but we certainly had a good time. Just reminiscing of all the good things, and all the fun that he had and stuff like that. And I certainly hope, my condolences also go to Wendy and the family and the whole Derek family. And, you know, things like what we did here this afternoon, we certainly hope that will help
To heal.
just heal, ease some of the pain that you're feeling at the moment. He will surely be missed, and we want to say on behalf of our executive producer, which is Taddy Arundel.
Yeah, my boy. Taddy was another bang. Yeah, Taddy. He had a good relationship with Taddy. Yeah.
Well, no one he thought he was the best there. He thought he was good, you know. Yeah, an ordinary technician, and of course, all our sponsors, ACB Caribbean, Simply Smarter Banking, Blue Mountain Water, Cecil Charles Group of Companies, Seco Pharmacy, along with Hutchison Limited, and the plumbing and the electrical, along with Bransfield. Yes, we want to say thank you for listening and being a part of the show here this afternoon as we looked at the times, the life and times of this great man, Gordon Banks Derrick. We say goodbye for now until next week, Monday, when you can join us again for another exciting episode of Talking Sports.